Hello, I'm Toycat, and welcome back to my second channel geography video. This is a series where we talk about geography and the world and stuff. Except in today's video, you know what? Even though we are going to be talking vaguely about the world, we're not talking about in the normal sense, where I dive into something over the course of some days, and I want to share some of that knowledge with all of you, because that's what this channel is. It's me diving down a rabbit hole, like for instance the SS Mont Blanc, which was a freighter built in England, purchased by a French company. It went to Nova Scotia, Canada, where it collided with a Norwegian ship, and just because it had so much cargo of TNT, acid, and gun cotton, it killed 2,000 people in the largest blast. It is widely suspected, at least, to have been the largest man-made explosion disaster in history until Hiroshima. This stuff is wildly interesting to me, and I can't resist going down the rabbit holes of like, wow, but you know, Nova Scotia is a pretty small province. Yeah, they have about 500,000 people about that time, which means that if it killed 2,000 people, that killed 0.5% of their population instantly in an explosion none of them were expecting, although it was World War, I, so it's like that's maybe they're expecting on that level, but no one's expecting to just have an entire district of their capital wiped out, having 2% of their population injured instantly. A huge disaster, right, that is kind of overshadowed because World War I is the bigger conflict with the clearer villains. Who's the villain in this situation? Was it the freighter company, the French company, the Norwegian company? Was it the fault of the harbor? It's it's a hard thing to point fingers at, and so the SS Mont Blanc, despite being the biggest explosion till Hiroshima, doesn't go down in memory. I find that interesting. It's a thing worth diving into one day, but not today, because here's a map of the world. If you equalize, instead of using area as a guide, because most people when they look at a map of the world, they don't see a globe. Instead, what they see, fun fact on Google Maps, you can just go, you can remove the globe option. They see the Mercator projection, and you're just like, oh yeah, the big countries like the Russias and the Australias, the Greenlands, and the Americas of the world, they're the ones that are important. But in my opinion, the most important thing, maybe alongside GDP, is probably population. How many people live in an area is wildly more important than how much land it belongs to, because we have way more land than we need as a species. So yeah, this is a more interesting map of the world. You can see how heavy Europe gets, but more importantly, how heavy India and China are on this map. It makes Russia look super tiny and China look big, which is really how it should be, right? Some people still see Russia as being this super big thing or whatever, but it's super spread out the way Russia is in the world, and also Mongolia is hilariously small too. Also, Australia is that, and New Zealand is 4 pixels. You literally can't see because I blocked them. Those 4 pixels over there, that is New Zealand, which again, I don't know, interesting stuff in my opinion. Also interesting things we could dive into for a whole video are like the Scottish colonization of the Americas. Despite Scotland's claim that like, you know what, the Empire thing, that was all England's doing. It's like, actually, even before the UK, which was obviously all the United Kingdom countries together, Scotland actually does have its fair own countries, including, it ties in again, Nova Scotia, which literally means New Scotland in Latin, right? There's also New Caledonia, but that's not related to Scotland directly. Also, a part of New Jersey, apparently, like, New Jersey used to be divided in 2, and there was a Scottish side and an English side. I didn't know about this. It's interesting. Scottish colonization of Americas could be its whole own video. I also, recently this week, learned about the world's 3rd richest female billionaire, who just got her money because she inherited some shares of the Mars, the chocolate bar company from her, parents. Interesting stuff, right? Also, she killed a person and also miscarried a pregnant woman, and it seems as though she got off fine with it, which is interesting. Or maybe tragic, I'm not sure. But today we're not talking about any of those things, because someone sent me on Twitter this United States high-speed rail system. It is a, obviously, fictional map of how these things are going to be in the future. This is what it could look like if America just got some high-speed rail built. But you know what? The reason we're going through this map is just to say, hey, even if we ignore the, I wanted to, just look at some maps of rail systems and metro systems around the world and just say, this is a dumb idea and here's why. So why is this not a thing that's going to happen? Ignoring the fact that, America is 50 states that try. Obviously, they're federalizing more and more. But in the case of this one, you need to get lots of states to agree on the land. You need to get lots of states to agree on the thing. Lots of states to agree on trillions of dollars. We're not talking about, it would cost $100 billion to build a single one of these lines between, a single city pair maybe. But to build all of these lines together, you're talking about trillions, if not tens of trillions of dollars being spent. If you can get past those things, it's like, okay, so why is this map not a good thing to look at? Maybe it's a good aspiration in some ways, but even in reality, before any of this gets built, it's like, okay, first of all, let's take a look at this red line, the Los Angeles to New York, a route which totally makes sense because it's such a busy line, except even if in the dream world of 220 miles per hour, it still doesn't make sense because, first of all, let's look at some of the sections here. Denver to Omaha, for instance, look at that. If if this is 4 hours, roughly, you'd say about 4 to 5 hours between these two cities. A big city in, bear in mind, you know, like Omaha's the biggest one in Nebraska, but still not even that big, right? A big city in Nebraska, a big city, or like a medium-sized city on the grand scale of things, 4.5 hours between them, you'd still probably fly between them. And that's ignoring the fact that, like, if you want to go between, like, St. Louis and Denver, a journey I have made, I met someone in Denver, City Museum, told the whole story before, I flew there from Denver. If I wanted to go via high-speed rail, in this dream world where we get all the states to spend tens of trillions, it's like, oh yeah, you take a 6.5 hour journey to Chicago, maybe, and then you take another hour and a half journey from there to St. Louis after changing train, hopefully not taking too long. Oh yeah, only 9 hours versus, you know, I think it was an hour and a 10-minute flight or something like that, with an hour and a bit spent at the airport beforehand. Oh yeah, 2.5 hours versus 9. High-speed rail's totally gonna win it there. And that's me being like a enthusiast for rail stuff. It's like, I also like planes. I like travel and transport. I don't know if that's come up. But like, yeah, this is a probably bad idea. Not least because it just has so many unnecessary lines for the idea of like, let's get all the states that we can on board. Like, you know this blue line right here? It starts out with a nice enough goal, like, oh yeah, Chicago to Houston or to Austin and Dallas kind of makes some sense. But all the stops it makes along the way, besides St. Louis, Kansas City, and maybe you could argue Oklahoma City, it's like, well, they're not going to be big enough to justify, again, the huge amount of rail and all the corresponding infrastructure. In my opinion, the way United States high-speed rail is ever going to go, if it does come about, is the West Coast line and the East Coast line make the most sense, but any form of connection between them, just in 2020, is always going to lose out to planes. Because if you want to have a high-speed rail journey time that makes sense over flying, it has to be, generally the rule is like 4 hours or less. I wanted to make a video on this forever. I've had so much like things about high speed I wanted to talk about, so instead of talking about it in that form, let's just talk about it over this map, or perhaps more stupidly, this map of a world metro. This is a hypothetical metro that connects the entire world together, and it is a cool thing to look at. Like, immediately when you see this, it's like a dream, right? Because if you've ever been in a big city, I mean, like when I first went to London, it's so cool that you can just go underground and pop out anywhere else in the city just by taking these magic people transporting tubes. It's a cool thing that society has done, and obviously wanting to see on a global scale makes sense. But for this map to work, you have to make two huge assumptions. One is that, first of all, we have Hyperloop scale technology, which is even, you know, like, let's assume you can go 1,000 kilometers an hour, right? Which is, again, we're talking like 4 times the speed of the highest speed stuff on the rail. Faster than maglev technology can do. You need to have tubes that are pressurized, send things through them, and then you can roughly equate the speed of planes. Again, roughly, huge expenses, huge stuff. So let's assume, again, we're living in a fancy world where that has been invented, perfected, and we're willing to do that on a worldwide scale. Ignore the second thing is getting every country to agree, you know, to this, to having these things going through their territory. Because bear in mind, in this case, like, take an example here. There are lines like this Helsinki to Warsaw line, which has to go through quite a few countries which don't have any benefit. They, you know, the Baltic countries don't have any stops on this metro, but it must go through their territory, and it's gotta, you know, like, etc., etc. So let's assume you can get all the countries to agree to have it pass through their territory, even for journeys unrelated to them. So, I don't know, if we look at, you know, Rotterdam to, you know, like, I don't know, Wuhan. Actually, wait, Wuhan over to, Miami. You have to make that journey possible and have all the countries in between it be agreed with that. Okay, that's a fancy world we're going to agree on too. The third thing is the immigration concern, which, again, we have to imagine there is a world with no immigration issues here, because even if we ignore the fact that, like, okay, so if you just have, like, immigration stations outside all of the metro stops, even then you have the huge issue of, like, okay, one, how do you work out which passengers are domestic and not? So if you're going from Antwerp to Brussels, you get on the same train as all these people from Glasgow, etc. Or if you're going from, you know, like, I don't know, Newark to New York, which is really, you know, I don't know why they're separate stops here, but, like, you'd be on the same train as the Canadians, etc. If you ignore that immigration side of things, and, and you're like, okay, we have immigration stops and it's fine, everyone goes through it. When you go on the international tube, you're in an international area. For instance, the United States of America doesn't allow sterile transit. If you go through America, you have to be in America. Other countries, the vast majority, even Canada's starting to do it now, will allow you to go into their airports and then leave their airport without entering their country. America doesn't allow that. So if you want to go, say, from Amsterdam to Vancouver, you have to go via New York, which means you'd be stepping into America. You'd have to get off the train, clear American customs, get back on the train. But again, if we're willing to ignore those things, which is, you know, like, we're talking about a dream world here where those aren't concerns. The reason this is a terrible idea, because I do have to say, there's lots of things that are very smartly designed about this. A direct route between London and Sydney, that would be a thing so many people would love to take. Like, yeah, I'd love to not have to fly for a day. It'd be cool if there was a train there instead. There's a few other clever lines on this one, in my opinion. Like, I think the, like, kind of cross-Canada line that also extends directly into Europe, kind of cool. Again, they've got the smart thing about West Coast Line, East Coast Line, the two that make the most sense, combining them together. Although this East Coast Line goes through St. Louis somehow. Like, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense, the cities that it's going through. But there is a lot of clever things about this. But even in the world where we assume all those things go away, this metro is still not a good idea. Again, once we ignore the technology barrier, which is huge, we ignore the international cooperation barrier, which is huge, we ignore the immigration barrier, which is also huge, this is also just an inefficient system in so many ways. I mean, even taking even going 1,000 kilometers an hour, right? So, or we'll say 1,000 miles an hour, just, you know, like, let's just be super, super nice about that. We'll assume it can go slightly faster than the current fastest planes. A train between London and Sydney, which again is probably one of the nicest routes on this thing, because bear in mind right now it's generally considered that like the thing that makes rapid transit or whatever possible, the way that works is that you know, the only reason the whole idea is that it's meant to be fast service, so fast that you don't have to like think about the next train, you just hop on the next one that's going, and it's meant to be short journeys, usually less than an hour, and in all cases less than like a couple of hours, right? In this case, even going at that super hyperspeed level, it's like, how long is it going to take to go from London to Sydney at 1,000 kilometers an hour, even 1,000 miles an hour, like 12 hours. So that means that realistically speaking, you can't have like a tube-style train or a metro-style train. You need to have toilet accommodation. You need to have food accommodation, so people to serve that food, you know, because it's a 16-hour train, and you can't really hop out in a lot of cases. And, you know, even if you ignore that and you're like, okay, so these are metro-style trains that have food, bathrooms, you know, sources of entertainment and all those sorts of things, you know, beds in the cases of 16-hour journeys, right? Or the option to have sleeper cabins. So really we're talking about a train network going across the world, just happening to be underground. Even in that case, there's still a lot of dumb choices here. Like, this stop here goes from Rotterdam straight to New York. How far is Rotterdam to New York? Well, you know, I'm glad you asked, because I can find that out right here. So this is New York City, very roughly, right? It's this one. Yep, it's that one. So this is New York City, and this is Rotterdam in the Netherlands. You know, it's a city I'd love to go to. Haven't been yet. Would love to go if there was a metro linking us. So bear in mind, the cities are about 5,800 kilometers apart. Even if it does that in 4 hours, which, you know, like maybe it could do, there's no stopping, starting, etc. Wrong map. There's no stopping, starting, etc. Even if you can do that journey in 4 hours without the ability to come up for any reason whatsoever. If there's a crash in the tunnel, like, you know, all these tunnels at super long lengths are a really bad idea generally. Tunnels that go 6,000 kilometers are not only outside the world of like reality, they're several hundred times past where we currently can do it. And yeah, 4-hour journey with no stops, no option to get off the train. Sounds pretty intense. Obviously it's doable above ground, because there's always the theoretical backup of just like out of the train that way. But when you're below ground, there's a lot of other things you'd have to do to make a tunnel like this possible. So that's off the table. But even past the things of like, okay, we have a dream world where like, you know, resources and issues and blah, blah, blah on a thing. We know it's 100% reliable. Even then, the issues of this is that there's lots of, you know, there's going to be lots of inefficient routings. I mean, I know this one's just trying to match very vaguely the London Underground lines, but like, let's look at like up here, for instance, Tokyo to Sendai. The way you make this journey is you go from Tokyo down to Beijing and then Beijing to Sendai. I mean, even on the fastest times it's going to take you, because bear in mind right now, there's a Shinkansen between them. It takes an hour and a half, which admittedly maybe you just use after this, but that means that this would still not be the primary way for a lot of people to get around, because Tokyo to Sendai, a journey I have made, when I went to Japan, it was a nice journey too. 300 kilometers, you can do that in like an hour. Even in this, again, dream world where you have 1,000-kilometer-an-hour trains, Tokyo to Beijing alone is going to take you, okay, that's going to take you 2 hours or so, a little bit under. And then Beijing to Sendai is another 2 hours. So it's inefficient on a lot of routings. But even with the inefficiencies aside, again, dream technology, you're like, so Tokyo to Pyongyang, and then Pyongyang to Taipei, and then Taipei to Hiroshima is the only way to do those two city pairs. If you want to go from Kyoto to Hiroshima even, let's say that, you have to go again via Beijing and Pyongyang and Taipei to get between cities, which again, you could just maybe argue that like, well, you don't really need to do that. But the fact that, you know, two cities so close together have to go via here, as well as actually they go via not just Beijing, they go via Pyongyang as well, and then they make a stop in Taiwan, and then they go to where they want to be. It's just kind of silly is what I'm trying to say right here. It's just kind of not the most efficient way to do this routing, in my opinion. Maybe I'm the crazy one here. So yeah, this also stuff like Sydney to Auckland. There's a huge demand between them. Even in this like super dream world with the World Metro, you're still gonna fly between them because otherwise you connect in Iran, I think, and then you connect in Hong Kong, and then you go down there. It's a really cool idea for a World Metro, and honestly, these maps are meant to inspire more than to even be science fiction, right? But yeah, to make this happen, you need a world without borders, you need a world without financial limitations, and even then, it's like, is it really the best option to have, you know, metros in this case? Would it realistically just end up being above ground most of the time? Probably. Would you want to take a metro that goes from London to Sydney, but goes above ground, or even like through the territory directly off, you know, like I don't know, the Middle East? It looks like Jerusalem is a hot stop. You know, that's why my point with this is it's a cool map, and I find it interesting, but also super unrealistic. Will there be a World Metro? No, for a billion reasons, even if I'd like there to be one. Although, I do have to mention, again, the number of liberties you have to take to assume this is a good idea. I find it hilarious that even here, it's like, oh yeah, South America is just a loop line. Don't live in Santiago or Buenos Aires, like, live somewhere in that center. You're done. No stops for you. You know, like, they expanded Europe massively on this map, which, you know, I think you should do per world population reasons or whatever. It's obviously doing the tube thing where it's better information design. I like it on that level. But the other thing about this that's kind of interesting is like, oh yeah, even in this fantasy world, the Green Line, which is meant to be like the African line, is still under construction. And the only African cities connected on this are Algiers, Tunis, Alexandria, and Cairo. So it's like, you know what, even in this fantasy world, we're still not going to construct metros to Africa, and like Lagos and South Africa are the only places planned, it looks like. It's kind of funny to me that like, even if you dream big, it's like, I don't dream of Africa though. They're not included in my big dreams. But yeah, as far as overall, it's a cool idea. There's a lot of like key things that aren't linked. So even with this, you'd have to have overland trains as well as you know, flights, etc., etc., etc. And I guess that is probably a key thing you'd need to fix. The truth is, you know, metros are meant for dense areas. They're meant to connect almost everywhere in a big city, but connecting almost everywhere in the world means you have a huge gap from Detroit to like LA to like Pittsburgh, where there's just no coverage, which is obviously a big problem in my opinion. Or maybe it's not. Also, the inaccuracies of this, like San Diego, LA, San Jose, San Francisco, I don't think they know where those cities are, because Portland's the end, which is all... You know, I guess Canada's just really warped or something, but like, there's a lot of weird stops and weird decisions about the ways these lines are decided. And, but yeah, you know, what I'm just trying to say is even in this weird world, there's a lot of dumb routes, like St. Petersburg, goes through a lot of Russian cities, ends up in South America and Portland. When you're making lines, you want to try and have as much traffic go directly from those points through those points. That's why London to Melbourne, or Glasgow and Dublin to Melbourne, is actually a clever route. That's why, you know, like... actually, there aren't many other ones we can compliment too highly. Like, I guess the one that goes through, you know, Vancouver to Shanghai, actually kind of good enough, I would say. But some of these routings, like Sapporo and Sendai and Tokyo to Boston via the entire world, again, the least efficient way to get there, kind of a dumb thing. Also, if this was a real world thing, you'd have connections from west to east. Like, you know, you'd have Sapporo connected to Vancouver in some way that doesn't involve, what is that, like 22 hours underground or something? But yeah, why is there no world metro? Cost, immigration, getting countries to cooperate, and also because even once you get those things done, deciding the lines would be such an impossible task that and it would never be possible to get truly great metro stops. And also, the places with the metro stops would be even more important because they'd be the most connected. Like, good luck getting to anywhere in America that isn't on this, business-wise. Also, you'd want to have, like, freight metro trains, which is something you wouldn't normally do. Again, there's lots of interesting things you'd have to do here that make it not a metro. Even in the dream world where you have the world metro, it wouldn't actually be a world metro, and that's just a fun fact. I hope you all enjoyed. But yeah, recently on this channel, there's been like a kind of gap in content, and the reason for that, and the reason I'm saying this at the end, is because if you enjoyed watching me talk about world metros for 19 minutes, and you can edit videos, something I want to do a bit more, because again, like at quarantine time, this is something I tried a little bit before, but like we had an issue getting it all together. But if you have like access to stock footage and you can edit video, or if you could get access to stock footage, I'd love, and you want to edit a video for me, I would love to make that happen again. I'd love to make some super fun videos on that way, or not super fun, educational, entertainment, edutainment videos, if you will. And if you'd like to edit them, because we do have an editor on this channel, Kobe, he's great. He's still working on some geography of toy cats. But yeah, if you feel like you have some time on your hands and you want to do some editing, then hit me up and we can maybe work that out. ibx2cat@gmail.com, or you can just message ibxtoycat@gmail.com. But just send me an email and I will send you one back. Or maybe I won't, you know. That's how emails work. You don't know what's happening until you send it. But all I do know is that I hope you enjoyed this video. By the way, Nanjing to Auckland, such a questionable line. There's so many things I look at as I'm going here, like, you know what? This Northern Line ripoff going through Mumbai, like splitting up and going across 2 parts of Europe. There's just a lot of questionable decisions all around here. Like even the Circle Line, like, you know, going on an endless loop between Germany and China and Egypt. Is that a thing anyone wants? But you know what a thing someone wants is? Those videos that you should email me if you can edit. And also, I hope you all enjoy this video. Again, there's lots of things that I've been like researching, diving down rabbit holes on that haven't turned into videos in the last while. And I figured it'd be fun to kind of talk about them. Do you want to see a video about the Scottish colonization of Americas? I bet you do. You know what else you want to see? A video about countries that merged that I didn't know about. Because just this last week, you know, actually, I'm rambling, but you know, it's a video. You got some time, I hope. I only learned, again, this is interesting about the world. Like, there's a lot of countries that are former countries that I'm like familiar with. Like everyone knows Czechoslovakia, the USSR. But I only learned like yesterday that Yemen used to be 2 Yemens. Like it's from that like Yakko's World thing. It's like both Yemens, and I was like, wait, both Yemens? I was like, yeah, there's a South and a North Yemen, and that's part of why they're in such civil war all the time right now. But yeah, fun fact: there's 2 Yemens that make up Yemen. And that is something you might not know. Or maybe it's not. And the South Yemen was like the socialist one. The North Yemen's it is a non-socialist country. And it's a very interesting mix. The Middle East is so filled with things that just doesn't like register on the radar. Most interesting things about it. But now you know. Stuff like that, I want to make videos about countries that merged that you don't realize. Because everyone knows the East German reunification. But how many other countries merged is something we'll cover in the future. If you enjoy it. And if someone wants to edit that video together. Anyway, thank you for watching. Second channel. Don't care. Goodbye.